In my opinion, this map is pretty easy to play because you only have to take care about one capture point. Yet I have never had a match where one of the teams actually did this. Welcome to my new video. Please also consider the information in the comment section of my video. I will post these charts on my Discord server. If you want to connect with some other players, talk about tips or something else, join my Discord. You find the link in my YouTube banner. Once a team has occupied the capture point B and is able to defend it, it will be really difficult for the other team to turn the match again. No matter the site you spawn at, after you have occupied B, you can have an eye from here on the enemy spawn points that are close to A and C. The two spots I highlighted on the east side of the map are very popular, and even in higher tier matches I still see players go there. I really can't recommend those positions. You don't have any impact on the match, and this is why I exclude this area from the map. For the west side of the map there is also an area I can't recommend, and it is actually the whole area below B. You can go there and find some spots to hide, but actually it is a dead end and you might get stuck. The team that has the capture point B can oversee the whole area and shoot at you even if you try to push the spawn that is closer to the enemy. This is why I avoid those highlighted areas and can't recommend them. Now let's have a closer look at the different routes and key position from each side. Let's start with the northeast spawn and the support route. Take a detour and use this route to get to your first key position before the capture point B. Don't use the route that is straight ahead of the spawn point. You might be lucky when you have a fast tank, but there still will be some enemies that go to the excluded areas and they can easily shoot on your side armor. I mark the position with the exclamation mark and the line of fire. Before you turn right towards the capture point B, take the route below the capture point and approach B from the west. Before you drive into the capture point, you want to stop behind the buildings and listen for enemies that also want to capture B. Hopefully your teammates will use the Brawl Route and be at their first key position by this time. When you don't feel comfortable to attack an enemy and you have no help, you can back up and wait for help to arrive. When you and your teammates that brawl at B have destroyed all attacking enemies, or when no enemies appeared, you can now capture B. The second key position for the support route is the capture point itself. Turn off your engine to listen for enemies. They still can appear from the routes that are closer to the west spawn of the enemy. I mark the position with the eye symbol. The last key position for this route is again just a few meters away. Make sure not to leave the capture point by using the exit that is right ahead of you. The enemy can shoot from their spawn right at you. Use the path to your right and the rocks and solid cover to protect your tank. From this position you can shoot at all the enemies that try to attack the capture point A or that want to push B from the west spawn again. And this is why the capture point B is so important. Listen carefully and check the minimap if enemies try to attack B again from the east spawn. Using earphones really helps at B. And don't mind about the enemies attacking you from behind. When you keep an eye on the minimap, they will be highlighted when they try to take this route, because they are close to your spawn. Now let's have a look at the other support route from the west spawn. Take a fast tank, use as much solid cover as possible and smoke to cover your way as you drive immediately to the first key position, the capture point A. I also recommend to use solid cover or smoke at a point because the enemy can shoot at you from their spawn. Don't approach the capture point C. Make a detour and use the path that leads up to the capture point B. Check on the minimap what your team is doing. When you are alone around B, there still might be some enemies. Before you capture B, that is your second key position, you can stay hull down and listen for enemies before the capture point. From this side it takes a little longer to get to B since you also want to capture A. And by the time you will arrive at B, the enemy also might be there from the east spawn or even the west spawn. The last key position for this route is the same as for the other support route. Find a solid cover to hide your tank behind and take out the enemies that are below the capture point B. On this map there is only one brawl route I can recommend. We have to fight about B, and this is why the route is around B. I also recommend to use the east spawn, because it is closer to the capture point. Again make a detour and this time you use the route that leads directly to the capture point. As you arrive at this intersection, have an eye to your left side. The enemy might be able to shoot at you from the sniper hill. This path is the spot where most of the time close combat situations around B will happen and you want to have some armor. because from here you have an eye on the only 2 routes that lead to B from the east spawn of the enemy. Use a rock or stay hull down to protect your tank and shoot at the enemies that approach B. You keep them busy while your teammates that took the support route ensure nobody will sneak up on you from the side. Again, enemies that will take this route will be highlighted on the minimap, so keep an eye on the map. From here either go to the capture point B or stay at your current position for your next key position for the Brawl Route. It really depends on what your team is doing. More enemies will appear around B since this is the point of interest. Keep in mind that the enemy also can attack B from the west spawn. Key position number 3 for the Brawl Route is also outside of B. Again, take out the enemies that are below B. You can also go back to the key position number 1 and defend B until it is later in the match. Because when the match is close to the end or when there are a lot of other teammates around B, you can use your armor and move down to the capture point C and capture it. Be aware that the enemy can directly shoot at you from the spawn. This is why I can't recommend to go there when you have to play as support or when it is early in the match. Before we have a look at the south side, here are all the key positions for the support and brawl routes from the north side. You can see a proper front line for each phase of the match and you can see a lot of commotion around B. It really is important. The support route from the southeast spawn again takes a detour. Use some smoke or have an eye on the sniper hill right at the enemy spawn. They can directly shoot at you, especially when you spawn again or late. Follow up that little path and take a look if there is already an enemy tank. You can go to this position. From here you have an overview on the sniper hill and the 2 routes that lead out of the enemy spawn. But here you are kind of trapped when the enemy tanks that take the Brawl Route will appear and you are all on your own. This is why you also can turn left and use the buildings around B to protect your tank. Again, check if you can detect any enemies around B before you move to your second key position. Key position number 2 is the capture point. Only go there if it is safe to do so, and from here you also have to have an eye on that area. This is the sniper position the enemy can use from the other side of the map, so maybe pop some smoke to cover your tank. Listen carefully, enemies might be nearby. You guessed it right. From this side also the last key position for the support route is outside of B, where you can oversee the whole area down below. Use some solid cover to protect your tank and listen for enemies around you. Again, enemies will be highlighted if they try to sneak up on you from this route. The other support route starts from the southwest spawn. Use solid cover to get to the capture point C, and also while capturing it. Or some smoke. Again, the enemy can shoot at you while you are at the capture point. From this side, it is not that easy to climb up the hill to the capture point B. Directly after C you can drop down into that pit, but make sure to avoid the rocks down there. When you get behind them you are stuck there and have to jay out. Follow up the path to B and use solid cover or smoke to protect your tank. Once you reach the top you want to stay put and listen for enemies. Again, it took you a while to get there and the enemy might already be around B. When everything is safe and you have some teammates around you, go for B. This is your second key position. Be aware of the snipers. This one is easy since it is the same key position as for the other support route. From the south side there is also just one brawl route. Again, start at a spawn in the southeast. You already know the route to your key position number 1. For the brawl route, from this side you also want to use the path that leads directly to the capture point B. Make sure to use some solid cover to protect your weak side armor. When you are alone at B, listen carefully for hostile engine sounds and see if you can detect enemies to your left. From here either go to the capture point B or stay at your current position for your next key position for the brawl route. Again, it depends on what your team is doing. More enemies will appear around B. Key position number 3 for the brawl route is outside of B. You can stay at B and defend it or move back to your former position. Defend B until it is later in the match. When the match is almost over or there are enough of your teammates at B, you can push the capture point A. Again, keep in mind that the enemy can shoot at you directly from the northwest spawn. You can see a proper front line for each phase of the match. I hope you like my tips for the map Karelia. Like, subscribe and leave a comment if you want to, and check out my Discord server. I will post the charts there. Hope to see you in game soon.